What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, that is self-directing your retirement accounts. And really what this video is meant for is it is meant to open up your eyes to the possibilities that you can have with these accounts. It's going to be number one of a 7-part video series that I'm going to have coming your way. And one, to get you excited about this. So why am I so excited about this space? So with my retirement accounts, within the last 8 months, I've purchased $1.4 million in real estate, lent on 3 separate private money lending deals. So with that, it's either backed by real estate or a personal guarantee in those cases. And then 3, limited partner on 2 multifamily units consisting of 182 doors. Now that's awesome. That's the power of these accounts. And you'd be surprised, I accomplished that with very little in those accounts. And we're going to get into that in later videos, break down exactly how I did that. So you can do it too. But in this one, it's going to be more introductory. So let's get into it. Let's have some fun. So first, we're going to talk about traditional retirement accounts. So what do those look like? So traditionally, we've got you here. And of course, I like everybody. They're happy. So traditionally, you're going to have, let's make a circle here. You're going to fit into either, maybe you're a W-2 employee, maybe you're self-employed like myself, or maybe it's just a personal brokerage account. So fit into one of these 3 categories typically, most commonly. And with that, more often than not, you're going to have some type of retirement account. Now, what we most commonly know these as is most employers, the most common one is going to be 401ks. So you've got your 401k, and these are going to be retirement accounts. So you got 401k, you could have your just a traditional IRA, so individual retirement account. You could have a Roth. You could have an HSA. So what an HSA is, a health savings account, and that's if you have a high deductible medical insurance plan, you can contribute to what is called an HSA, and you can actually self-direct that as well. It's really cool. So you also have accounts like educational accounts, like to save up for your kids' college. So there's one that I'm aware of. It's called a Coverdell. So all of these accounts, what do they have in common? They are tax advantaged. Now, what do I mean by that? So tax advantage, either you are putting in post-tax money into these accounts. So for example, in a Roth, you're going to put in money that has already been taxed, and then that money is going to grow tax-free, and you will take it out tax-free at retirement. Now, same thing goes for a 401k. It's different in the aspect of it's going to go in pre-tax. So it's usually taken right out of your paycheck before taxes are taken out. And then from there, it grows and you have a much larger amount. It keeps growing and growing. And then at the end, when you take it out at retirement age, it's taxed at that point in time. So tax advantage accounts, that's what the benefits are of these. So that's your typical retirement accounts. And these accounts, where you're most commonly going to find them in is, your big firms. Fidelity's one. We've got Vanguard. These are some of the ones that most people are familiar with. You got Charles Schwab. But really, those are the big 3 key players. And what do these accounts invest in? So within these traditional accounts with these brokerages, you can invest in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, which that's not news to you. So we got stocks, bonds. I'm just going to abbreviate this: stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and in retirement accounts, on average, historically, say you're in a broad-based mutual fund, you're more of that passive investor type. You really don't know how to pick stocks, things of that nature. You probably put in some broad-based mutual fund. What I liked when I was working in my corporate gig for 13 years is I was in a fund that was tracking the S&P. So long-term, on average, you're going to be getting returns of about, say, 8 to 10%. And again, that's over a longer length of time. You're gonna have to go through a lot of dips, not selling those dips. That's on average if you keep contributing to the account and let it go. So that's your traditional. Give you an idea there. So with this type of account, what we got to know here is, I like to say, this is our limited menu. So you go to a restaurant, say maybe this is, I'd say In-N-Out. I like In-N-Out, but In-N-Out has a very limited menu. There's only a few things you can get. It's pretty much hamburgers, fries, shakes. It's nothing crazy. Again, it's a good restaurant, but very limited menu. Another way you can think about this is, in this type of scenario, you're really taking the back seat on your investments. You're not going to know, again, I'm talking about the general population. You're not going to know, oh, everything about this particular company or stock that you're picking. You don't have the knowledge. You're not reading their prospectus to where, hey, I know this company's financials in and out. I know what their plans long-term are, so on and so forth. Again, average investors, some people, that's what they're good at, and that's good. It's not me. But if you're watching this video, you're probably interested in the SDIRA, which we'll get into that. So limited menu, you're taking the back seat. So for that back seat, we're gonna draw a Cybertruck because it's got no body lines. It's easy to draw. So we got this. And it is the funkiest looking truck out there. We got our wheels here. And you are back here. You are in the back seat. And someone up here is essentially paving your path on where you're going to go in your investments. So through the back seats, you don't really have much control. Yes, can you pick some stocks here and there? Okay, yeah, you can do that. But really, you're stuck to, again, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So now let's talk about what is an SDIRA. So SDIRA, it stands for Self-Directed Individual Retirement Account. Now again, it has IRA in the title, but you can encompass all of these tax advantage accounts. So again, there's some on here that I'm missing. I think there's like a 403B. I can't remember what the other educational one is, but all this stuff, you can self-direct them. It could be solo 401k, stuff like that. So it says SDIRA, but it is all of these retirement accounts. That's just key point to take into consideration there. So we will erase this real quick. Now, SDIRA, in this scenario, we'll draw that truck again. Again, that truck is hideous, my friends. I apologize if you like it. You've got bad taste. Oh. Now, sometimes it's kind of growing on me. But again, in this scenario, instead of being in the back seat here, you're going to be in the front seat, cruising along, and you're going to take that truck where you want it to go. You are going to direct that truck's path. You are no longer in the passenger seat. You are taking control of your life. You are taking ownership in your life of where your investments are going to go. So what is this? So SDIRAs they allow you to invest your retirement accounts in anything allowed by law. Now, what does that mean? Really, anything that's not allowed by law in these accounts. Now, granted, keep in mind that these are allowed within your traditional accounts. It's just those brokerages like the Fidelities, the Vanguards, the Schwabs, they won't allow you. It's not their business model. So keep that in mind. All retirement accounts are allowed to do this. It just depends where your money is placed. So SDIRA, what can you not invest in? That's a much shorter list on what you can't invest in as far as retirement accounts go. Again, this is assets that are allowed or not allowed by law. So what's not allowed? You have got life insurance policies. So life insurance, that's not allowed. You have got S corporation stock. So that's another one. That's not allowed by law. Now you can invest in small businesses, startups, things of that nature, but the IRS has decided that S Corp, that's a no-go. So that's one of the big three. Third one is collectibles. Now, this is the majority of collectibles. There are some such as like precious metals, like gold. You can invest in that with your retirement account. There's stuff where you can't actually hold that asset. It has to be at a separate place because it's more like cash. But anyways, we'll get into that. But collectibles, what I'm meaning by that is like fine art. Another one could be stamps. If you're into that, coins. Again, coins, they could be put in your account if they're gold, silver, things of that nature. So these are your main three. Those are their three no-nos. There's one fourth one over here. This one's an important one. And this is just disqualified. This is prohibited transactions. So we'll get into that more on the rules and regulation. So we'll just put prohibited. And that's just the manner in how you invest with these accounts. So we'll get into that. But as far as actual assets themselves, these are your main three. Now, what can you invest in? This is where the exciting part comes in. You can invest in what you know. That's what's cool about these accounts. My personal favorite. So what can you invest in? We've got my personal favorite, which is real estate. And my next personal favorite, which is notes. So that is you lending money out to someone. Now you could lend money where it's secured by real estate. That's one of my favorites. You can do transactional funding. I do transactional funding within my retirement accounts where you're funding someone's earnest money deposits on like a scaling real estate operations. Again, we'll deep dive into that. That's a lengthier topic, but give you an idea there. You can invest in precious metals. Again, that's going to be your gold, your silver, things like that. You can invest in startups. And I got a really cool example use case we're going to talk about down here. But startups. You can invest in startups. You can invest in crypto. Now, granted, I'm no expert on crypto, so I'm not going to discuss that too much. Really, these are my forte up here top, but this list, we could go on and on. We could fill this whole entire whiteboard. There's stuff, there's assets that you can invest in that I'm not aware of because really I stick to what I know. I try to stay within my lane, and you should too. That's what's powerful about these retirement accounts. You may be really good at something completely different, and that's what's awesome about these retirement accounts is you can use them in that manner. Again, it's investing in what you know. What's your niche? What are you, like, where are you connected? Where are you currently making money? Again, I was making money in real estate. So it was the next logical step was to utilize these accounts to progress that even further. So that is SDIRA in a nutshell. Granted, that's very high level, but that's awesome. And for some of you that aren't really aware of this space, you're probably like, are you kidding me? Like you can actually invest in this type of stuff with your SDIRA, and like you can go deep down into this rabbit hole. It's awesome. And we are going to go pretty deep into this rabbit hole within this video series. It's going to be awesome. So we've talked about what our traditional retirement accounts look like and what is an SDIRA. So we've got that for you. And again, we've got that truck where you are in the driver's seat. You're traditional, you're riding passenger, you're going where they're going to take you. And this limited menu, this is an extensive menu. So this is, I'm trying to find, what is a menu that is just like crazy? It's almost overbearing when you go there. Cheesecake Factory. This is the Cheesecake Factory of menus. This is the In-N-Out and menus. Two really good restaurants, but you've got way more options than this one. So gives you kind of an analogy there. So we'll erase this. Now, what we're going to go into next is why is this not common knowledge? Now, I'm going to beat around the bush a little bit here. And what I'm going to say is, so those big institutions like Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, they say it is a hassle to invest in these other asset classes. So hassle, it's not administratively feasible for them. Again, they're set up, their business model, their whole business model is set off of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So Wall Street, they're already making their money on that. Why change? They're doing really well on that. So it's a hassle. Another thing is it's risky. And I don't care what you're investing in, it is risky. Everything in life is risky. You could walk outside your house and get hit by a car or trip on your stairs. Life's a risk. You just got to judge on what risk you are willing to take. And again, I'd venture to say that it's much more risky not taking control of your life and knowing exactly what your retirement fund is doing, rather than to letting these yahoos drive that car for you and you have no idea if they're going to go into oncoming traffic. So risky. So they say it's hassle, risky, and like any business, what's the real story? What does it come down to? Money. Yes, money is what it comes down to. Again, their model is not built for this. They make all their money from selling you stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. They've got all those commissions that they make from those. Why would they change that? It's a good business model for them. It's worked for this period of time. They're making really good money off of us investing in those type of assets. And they've got a big portion of the market, and not as many people are aware of this, but there are gaining awareness to it. So hassle, it's risky, but like anything, what it comes down to is the money side of things. And let's see. So it comes down to the money side of things. So that's why it's not common knowledge there. Okay, now what are some common myths? Let's go into those. So some of the common myths on this are, like, one example is, say, people that I used to work with in the corporate gig. I was really getting into this, was doing some research on SDIRAs, and I was like, holy cow, you can do this. This is amazing. Talking to a few people about it, and they're like, oh yeah, I self-direct my retirement account. I'm like, really? Oh, that's awesome. So you know about this, this, and this. I'm like, no, what's that? I'm like, okay, so what do you do? Well, I can go in there and I can pick my stocks. So, no, that's not self-directing your retirement account. Yes, to a certain extent, I guess. You're picking your stocks. Woohoo, that's awesome, I guess. I mean, it's cool that you have that flexibility, but really, I'd rather have this extensive menu and really self-direct that to do the really powerful stuff. Again, like I was saying here, single-digit returns, common passive investor, self-directing your retirement account. None of my investments within here are making less than double-digit returns. So it's awesome. Really good strategy. So common myths, that's one of them. So they're saying stock picking is self-directing. Another common myth is that's not legal, or you can't do that within a retirement account. So let's say not legal. And let me tell you, my friends, this is 100% legal. And really what you're going to do is, if you approach your traditional, like your Fidelities, Vanguard, Schwab, they're going to tell you, oh, that's risky. We don't do that. And I would suggest against that. Again, where are they making their money? Follow the money. They're also going to say they're honestly going to make it very difficult for you to get your funds out of there. And it was the same for me. I mean, it wasn't too bad. I was with Fidelity when I got my funds out of there. It took some time, but it wasn't like I was trying to coerce them, but they're not going to help you out in any way. So you do have to do some research. Again, in a later video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did that, so you have the step-by-step instructions. It's going to be similar across each brokerages. But again, that's not illegal. You've got this. Again, go into that limited menu and extensive menu that we got here. So you've got your traditionals, your SDIRAs. The only difference between these accounts, they're all retirement accounts. The only difference is this is a brokerage firm that doesn't allow you to invest in other asset classes. This is a brokerage firm or a trustee account that will allow you to invest in those other asset classes. So it's just like going to a different restaurant. If you're looking for, we'll say for stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, you're looking for a chalupa, You're not going to go to Arby's to get a chalupa. You're going to go to Taco Bell. So there, that's there for you. So not legal. That's one of the second common misconception. And then 3, let's see, what do I got down here for notes on number 3? Oh yeah, that's an important one. Forgot about that one. So I don't have enough money in my retirement accounts to really make a dent in this. So not enough money. And let me tell you, I could totally blow that one out of the water because all those assets that I'm invested in were done with very minimal money. And in later videos, we're going to break down the full detail of that and how I did it. So not enough. And when you're looking at this, say you only got 5K. And you're like, I'm not going to be able to do anything with that. I'm not going to be able to buy a house. I'm not going to be able to do, what is it? What other stuff could you do? But anyways, you're going to have that limited mindset. It's like, this is not sufficient to do anything. And honestly, I had that when I first got into it. It was like, I've got to build these accounts up so I can actually do something with them. But in all reality, what I was missing is even with this amount of money, you can even partner or joint venture with somebody that knows what they're doing. You can invest that money with them on a loan and get a pretty decent return on it. So in this case, with 5K, you could do what's called transactional lending. And what I was talking about is, so EMD, earnest money deposits, so earnest money down. What that is when you put in a contract in real estate, so traditional route, or yeah, you're buying something on market, you put that contract in, what they're going to typically require of you is what's called a good faith deposit. So that's EMD, earnest money down. And that's going to range from anywhere to most commonly $2,000 to $7,000. I mean, granted, with the housing prices where they're at now, it's gotten a little higher in some cases, but on your average home, 5K is going to be sufficient for that. I mean, you don't want to take the full thing. You want to have some as a buffer to account for fees, stuff like that. So say you can do a 4K EMD deal. And these EMD deals, the returns on those are pretty awesome. They're really good. Again, that's another video. We'll dive into that, but you can get definitely in the double-digit returns on an EMD deal, even when you're partnering with someone that knows what they're doing in that space. So that one, again, all of these fully debunked. So those are the common myths. Now we're going to get into my favorite part, the benefits. And there are so many benefits to these accounts. It's just, yeah, it's insane. So number 1 benefit, you get to invest in what you know. You've got some skin in the game. It's something you're good at. It's something you're knowledgeable about. Maybe you're knowledgeable about tech startup companies. You want to invest in one of those when it's super undervalued and sell it after it goes public. You can do that if that's something you're really good in. If you want to do trading crypto and you're really good at it, you've got a proven track record. Obviously, you don't want to do stuff that's risky. I mean, if you want to gamble, just stay in the stock market. That's enough gambling for me. But if you want to self-direct in something that you actually know, then do that and make sure it's something that you do know and you have proven returns on it. That way you can skyrocket your growth in these accounts with that type of strategy. So invest in what you know. Another benefit is these, more often than not, are tangible. These are tangible. You can hold them in your hands, or you can, like for my example, for real estate, I can go visit that property. It's a real item. I can be involved in the process. Now, granted, there are some rules and regulations about that, which I'll get into. But again, you can actually look, touch, and feel these assets. It's awesome. It's tangible. Now, third major benefit, granted, there's a lot more benefits than this, but we'll just start with these 3. These are the 3 main ones. But again, tax. These are tax advantage accounts. Again, we got into that in the beginning. For instance, I I've got a video on this, a breakdown of a seller finance duplex that I purchased within my Roth IRA. Now with that one, purchased it at 430. The after repair value on it is 630. Now, traditionally, when you go to sell that down the line, you're going to get, unless you go like a 1031 route where you roll it over into another property, if you sell it and you take that income, you're going to be charged what's called capital gains tax. Now, it could be long-term depending on how long you hold it, but if it's less than a year, it's going to be short-term capital gains tax, and that's in the 30+%. Now, with a Roth, when I go to sell that property, all of those gains, paying nothing. And when I take it out of that account, granted, there's some rules around when I can take that out. There's ways to get it out a little sooner. We can talk about that. But your traditional is at your retirement age. When you take it out, it's tax-free. That's awesome. That's huge. So the benefit to that is you are keeping more in these accounts, and with that comes the compounding effect. You're going to be making interest on a much larger sum of money, and over time, it's going to be like a snowball. It's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's really great. So tax advantage. Those are the three big ones. I'd say the fourth big one is the compound effect. Oh man. The compound effect. Again, you're keeping your money in there. You're going to have a larger nest egg to keep piling that up. So that's really good. So those are the main benefits. Now, rules and regulations. Now this is really, it's like riding a bicycle. It's going to take some time to get to know them up front. And yes, there's stuff that you really need to know, because if you don't operate these accounts correctly, you could dissolve your retirement accounts and you could run into a bunch of extra fees. You could be taxed on those accounts at a higher rate. You don't want to do this. It's a bad way to go. So you want to stay within these rules, because if you get caught doing shady business, it's not going to be fun for you. I can guarantee that. So rules and regulations, but once you know them, again, they're really simple. It's just you need to remember them or have a reference, which, speaking of that, have a killer reference here. So this is the Self-Directed IRA Handbook by Matt Sorensen. So he's a wealth attorney, and he actually owns a directed IRA company, trust company. That's where my accounts are. Solid. Like, he is by far, I'd say he's the leader in the space, in my opinion. And that book is a really good book to reference. It's got case law in there. It's got examples of prohibited transactions, stuff like that. So really good. It's $14 on Amazon. I highly recommend it. It's awesome. So rules and regulations, big one. We'll have a later video that really deep dives into these, but rules and regulations here are what I said: prohibited transactions. Now, prohibited transactions, some examples of this is like self-dealing prohibited transactions. Like, you can't get a credit card in your IRA, because to apply for a credit card, it needs to use your personal credit score to do that. And you can't have any extra benefits in that account because of the status of where you're at in life or what have you. It's the same thing over here. You're not getting any preferential treatment because of what your credit score is. So same thing applies over here. You can't apply for a credit card. That same vein, you can't be the personal guarantor on any type of loan. So you can't do that. Personal guarantor. We'll abbreviate that. And another one, for example, real estate. Again, that's the space that I'm in. For real estate on those properties, I can be involved from the admin perspective. Like, I can get the properties under contract. I can get them to closing. I can do the admin of setting up utilities, stuff like that. But as far as working on those properties, so fix and flip. So that duplex, what I ended up having to do is I brought in a general contractor. He's actually my brother-in-law. So I brought him into that deal, and he's going to be performing all the work on that. And that's going to be kind of his buy-in to the deal. But myself, I could not go at that property and work on it. That is a prohibited self-dealing transaction. So that's a big no-no. You can't do that. So with that same vein, if you are doing flips like that, you are going to want to make sure that you're keeping track of all those receipts and who performed the work on that property, because you don't want to be caught in a situation where they're like, you definitely did the work on that property. That's a no-go. So another one is disqualified persons or disqualified people. We'll abbreviate this, disqualified people. So for disqualified people, these are people, again, who you can transact with in these transactions. So with these investments, you cannot do any dealings with, one, yourself, the owner of the account. That's disqualified. You cannot do transactions with your spouse. That's prohibited. You can't do it with your children. You cannot do it with your parents. And the way this is actually laid out in the IRS code is you can't do it with any ancestral line, any of your ancestral lines. So it can't be parents, it can't be grandparents, great-grandparents. You get the picture there. So it goes on, those are people that you cannot, those are disqualified. Now there's instances on how you can set it up outside, like an IRA LLC. We'll get into that. That's how my structure is. But you can invest with these people with that type of setup. There, again, it's not crazy complicated, but we do need to walk through that because you don't want to do it without any knowledge going into it. The important thing to note is if you two invest with each other, it's going to stay at that same percentage. So if it's a 60-40 split, everything's going to be 60-40 across the board. You can't change it. That's it. You can't buy each other out. That's how it's going to be for the remainder of that until you close it. So disqualified people. Now, who's not disqualified? Now, my siblings. I can invest with my siblings. They're not disqualified. I can invest with their spouses. So again, my brother-in-law on that duplex deal, I'm investing with him. So that's awesome. That's really, really cool. So I'm able to get him into real estate by doing that. It's really, really neat. Now, some other big ones are what's called UBIT. We've got UBIT and UDFI. So what is UBIT? When does that come into play? So UBIT is unrelated business income tax. So unrelated business income tax is if you have, say, an operational business within these accounts. So say you're trading crypto and you're hopping in and out of the market, you're actively trading crypto. That's counted as an operational business. And therefore, they don't want you, the IRS doesn't want you to have any tax advantage over any other small business. So you're going to be charged at a similar rate on that money, which is unrelated business income tax. So you will be taxed as if you are an operational business. Again, that's to just keep the level playing field. Now, UDFI, that stands for unrelated debt financed income. So on that, for the instance where I've got my seller finance duplex, now of course the portion of that is seller finance, that's a note. That's a note, a promissory note where I have agreed, my IRA account has agreed to pay that back to the owner. Now that finance portion, I'm going to have to pay taxes on the portion of the gains that equates to because of the reason it was financed, like the portion that was financed. Now, there's a calculation to do that. I'm not crazy familiar on that. Again, I've got my CPAs for that. I stay in my own lane for the most part. I've got a general idea, but I couldn't tell you off the cuff exactly what that looks like. But nice thing about this, at least with real estate, is you have your expenses, and those expenses go against the property. So you can sometimes wipe out a decent amount of this UDFI. So that's one thing to take into consideration. But rules and regulations, really important topic, boring topic. It's exciting for me because I love this stuff, but I realize for others it's probably a boring topic. But these are your three major big ones you want to know about. Now with that, we're going to get into the fun part, some example use cases. So again, we've got that seller finance. I'm just going to abbreviate this, make it easier. SF, seller finance duplex. Now that seller finance duplex, again, I bought with my Roth. It is just south of Nashville in the Bellevue area, and it's fully seller financed. The note is a seller carryback to that seller that I purchased it from. 5% down payment on it, and no payments for the first entire year. And after that, we're just paying interest only payments. So really good deal, super powerful. Again, that's how you can invest with an account that's not up to where you'd think, oh, I can't invest until I've reached $300,000 or something like that. You can invest with pretty little and make some really impactful returns. This one right here is making 20+% cash on cash returns. So on the money put into it, I'm making 20% out of that. Now another one, I've got a note out for an RV park. Now this RV park is based out of Montana. And for this RV park, what I've got on that is it's secured by a personal guarantee with the person that owns that RV park. Now again, that one, it's not fully secured by the real estate itself. That's a whole nother topic, but personal guarantee, I'm confident with that person, not really worried about it. But that one's making a 12% return. And I see this as just a place to park it while I'm waiting for the next investment. It's a short-term loan. It's only going to last for 6 months to a year. So 12% on that. An example outside of me. So someone that's in a completely different field. Now, some of you may have heard of a person named Peter Thiel. Now, Peter Thiel, who is that? I think it's spelled with an H. It's an odd spelling. So Peter Thiel, he's a venture capitalist. He invests, like his forte is businesses, like startup companies, I think primarily in the tech space. And what he's famous for is his Roth purchasing PayPal. So with PayPal, when it was, well before it went public, he invested $2,000. So $2,000 from his Roth IRA when that company was super undervalued. And with that, he held it for 3 years. And at that 3 years, that company was sold to eBay for $1.5 billion. Now it's not just, so we got $1.5 billion. Now it's not disclosed exactly how much he made off of that 2K return, but based on when he got in and the fact that the company sold for $1.5 billion, I could guarantee you it's pretty substantial. And it's crazy that the amount of money that he was able to make off of 2K is way more than 2x's returns. It's probably 100x's returns. I mean, it's insane. But because of investments like that, he's invested in other similar ways. His retirement account now is worth something like $22 billion within a Roth IRA. And again, those gains, he has to pay no capital gains tax on those. And also, he's going to take them out tax-free at retirement. And there's ways, again, you can get them out a little sooner because your contributions, if they stay within those accounts for 5 years plus, you can take those contributions out at pretty much any time. I'm telling you, Roth IRAs are awesome. It's really killer. And another common, this was actually a really good myth on Roth IRAs. A lot of people think for Roth IRAs that it is restricted based on your income. So if you make it above a certain income, you can't contribute to these. That is completely untrue. I know because I've done it. So Roth IRAs, if you make above a certain income, what you can do is called a backdoor Roth IRA or backdoor Roth IRA conversion. There are ways where you can get money into this account even if you are making above the thresholds, and you can get the full contribution in there. There's also ways where you can roll over funds from a traditional IRA to do what's called the mega backdoor Roth. And again, we'll get into that. That's a whole new video within itself. It's awesome. It's a killer strategy. That's something you can do now while you're in your W-2 and really get that account to take off. And it's pretty neat. So we'll get into that at a later video. So again, those are some example use cases. And I tell you what, that's a lot better than being in these traditional accounts, at least for me. That's awesome. So by now you've got some idea of what these accounts do. As you can see, I hope you can see that this is such a powerful way to utilize your retirement account. Again, this is the first video. It's an intro video to a 7-part series. What's next? We're going to be talking about, again, deep dive into regulations, step-by-step instructions on how you set up those accounts. I'm going to walk you through click by click exactly what I did. Again, it's going to be a slightly different per brokerage that you're with, but the concepts are really the same. It's going to give you a really good idea of steps to follow when you do this yourself. I'm going to show you how to set it up. I'm going to have a video on what my structure looks like, how I operate within these accounts, some important do's and don'ts within the accounts to make sure that you're filing or doing the appropriate stuff with the state that you're in. And yeah, then we're going to go into really deep diving on some of these example use cases, exactly what they look like, how I found them, how I got into them, things of that nature. And then we're going to go over other stuff that maybe I'm not the type that would invest in that, but they are options that you can do and kind of what that looks like. So super excited for this series. You're going to learn a lot. I guarantee it. So let's follow along, hit subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks.